recording now. So that's how Zoom works. You can just download the application. You have, you get a phone number and a meeting ID, and then people can just call in on the audio. They can use the video feature as well. And then, obviously if you had a ton of people, you start to run out of, looks like I said in my email, like the Brady Bunch, right? All of the little tiles. But for the most part, I've never had more than about 4 or 5 people. And the only reason to really see people is when we want to have a discussion like this. It just makes it a little bit easier to have a name with a face. But for the most part, when I'm doing a demonstration, it's going to be sharing the meeting. So, and the quality is frankly, I want to say, is as good as your internet connection. So the first couple of times I did it, my internet connection wasn't so good, but I did have my son and daughter-in-law were staying with us. They were in between houses, and I think because they were using the internet also and Netflix and such, I just didn't have enough bandwidth to support both of that. Because I really haven't had any problems since they left.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation, Scott.
Yes, and I can see your explanation, when you send a group chat, out as well. So I've used other video conferencing kind of tools. They all have plus and minuses. The main advantage with, Zoom has been, and the first time I've used this for this effort, was the fact that I can do both video and sharing a screen, because some of them can do like one or the other. And you can have the audio, and it records it, and it's all free. So everything I'm doing is free. So I have a free audit. When this is done, I'll post it as I have been on Google Drive or upload it to YouTube. So they'll have a free recording as well. Is also very helpful to have. So with that being said, Karen's been on a couple of times. So Joanne, is there anything you want me to show you in particular about pathways that would be of interest or use to you?
One of the things I know I want to learn about pathways is, I know I got in and I started working on my icebreaker, but it wasn't clear to me what else was in that path, and I didn't know how to get to it.
Okay, excellent. I'd be glad to show you that. So let me share my second screen and say share. And let me pull up my web meeting here. Let me go to come on. Let me go to Toastmasters.org. I should have had this already set up. Toastmasters.org. And then we go to click on Pathways. And I want to go to Basecamp. Now I belong, quote, to two. I'm going to log into Toastmasters in general. Now, strictly the 2 clubs. I have Roman orders and Pathways guides. I mean, it's not really a club, of course, but things that I haven't. If I log in under Pathway guides, the Roman orders, DPE can't see any of my stuff. The way Pathways works, and this only since you're district leader, you should know this. Everything you have is unique to you. Pathways doesn't really care what club you belong to. Everything you do is all in your stuff. So when you select the club of one that you formally belong to, that's the club that Pathways will give access to and be able to use. So if I select Roman orders, then the Roman orders VPE can see my stuff. If I select Pathway guide, then Roman orders VPE can't see my stuff, but the Pathway guides VPE, if you will. So selecting the club doesn't change anything that you're doing. Doesn't even frankly change who can do approvals. All it changes is who can see what you have. So with that being said, I'm just log in as a Pathways guide, mostly because there's a few other things I can see as a pathways guide that just make sure I know I can do that.
I have a question. I have a question. So Elizabeth couldn't go into my transcripts and change anything.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're the only one. This is really set up. I mean, probably because maybe, I don't know, Europeans or other people, very big on the privacy thing. And not that I'm not big on privacy, but it's like we're in Toastmasters, you know, VPE can see if you had paper book, they would see your book, you know, for evaluations. So I'm not quite sure why it's quite such a big deal. But, yeah, no one else can see if you have. And so, I mean, they can't change anything you have. So, for example, if I go to my education transcript, and then, and as you probably know, Joanne, everything that you open, if you will, any tutorials you take, all of that gets dumped into your education transcript. So once you've found something like, oh, here's how you mentor, here's how I be a Basecamp manager, once you've opened that up once, all of that will be in your education transcript folder or directory, however you want to view it. And it seems to be taking its time to open up my education transcript here. Come on, any day now. There we go. So under my education transcript, I have all these things that I've been, looking at and doing. So I come down to leadership development because that's mine, and you can see that that's my path because it has all these books. I also have another path as a pathway guide because that's another thing that I'm doing that's unique to me. And so on the leadership, on any of them, if you click on the word itself, you can see it gets underlined and becomes a hyperlink. If I click on that word itself, what pops up is a complete list of everything that's needed for that path. Everything that you need, the entire list is all right there. So you can see every little thing you need to do for level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up. And so for level 1, you can see there's an icebreaker, and you can see that's an online class. You can see I've also completed it. Evaluation and feedback. You can see that's an online class, and I'm in progress with that. Now, as it turns out, the evaluation feedback, has multiple components to it, and unfortunately, it's not letting me open them up. But there's multiple components to that, and then research and presenting the level 1 completion. So here's how you can kind of see overall. Now, what you can't see, unfortunately, is you can't see, well, what's exactly under, using presentation software or something like that. It doesn't let you go in that way to find it, but what I do have instead is you can download a list of all 59 projects that Toastmasters have. So in other words, they're just numbered from 1 to 59. So active listening's a project. They're not necessarily, and they're in alphabetical order, so it doesn't really help. I'd have to go down to, okay, the thing I was looking for was about presentations or something. So if I go down to, what was it called? Let me just go back and check. It was called, using presentation software. Let's see if there's under you, if there's a using, there you go, using presentation software. So I can, now this is only telling you the outline, right? There's a whole book or a manual or online class behind this, but this at least tells you, all right, presentation software is, what the project's about, the purpose, the overview, what you have to do, and how long. So there is a list of all 59 projects that are needed, for any of these that are there. And so I can certainly send
So now, how did you get over to the descriptions of each of the different segments? How did you navigate over that way?
Yeah, so if you go down to my path, which is leadership development, okay. If I roll, you can see I have an arrow right now, correct?
Yeah, I see your arrow. Yep.
If I roll up under leadership development, you see that it turns to a hand, and the leadership development is underlined, and that means it's a hyperlink. And if I click on that, that's what'll take me to this. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, but then you got to a level deeper where you saw the descriptions of each of the things that you had to do. That's where I lost you.
Yeah, that was a separate thing. I went out and tried to, I had to go off and find that myself. That wasn't something, I had to go off and find that, and then,
oh, okay.
so that wasn't something you just casually go and find. Come on, what's good? Yeah, no, I had to go find that separately. There's a lot of stuff I've ended up having to find by searching or whatever. And then once I have it, I download it to my computer so that it's easier to find for the future. And so wouldn't you know it, tonight I've got something's going on, although I have Spectrum. So so now if I go over to Open Curriculum, all right, and I click on that, to your earlier point, now you can see for your given level, you can see what's necessary. Now, I can look at level 2 and see, this is another way to find out all the things you need, right? You can just take a screenshot of each of these levels to see what's necessary. It doesn't give you like all in one shot. You can't open any of these up. It won't let you do that, but you can at least see them. So if I go to level 1 and, you know, I did my icebreaker. So when I did my icebreaker, I'm going to launch it even though I have it completed. When you first do it, you get a little window for doing your free speech questions. And did you go through that Q&A process of answering those questions for your icebreaker?
Yeah, you did the assessment.
You did do that, yes?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Right. So when you're done, you come back and you launch this. And did you go back to it after you had done your icebreaker?
I haven't done my icebreaker yet. I have all the information to do it. I just need to set it up with the educational vice president and get on the schedule.
No worries. So when you give your icebreaker, you'll come back and launch this, and that's when and you're only the person themselves can say when they've completed a project. In other words, the vice president of education doesn't sign off on you doing your icebreaker. You sign off on yourself. The only thing the VPE does is sign off on the overall level of completion. But a Karen Roos question, yeah, our VPE, Elizabeth Gates, can't come in and say, yep, you did the icebreaker, or no, you didn't. They don't get that insight. That's just the way Toastmasters has it set up. So there's kind of an honor system that when the VPE looks at the level of completion, they say, yeah, I think I remember you doing an icebreaker. I think I remember you doing those other things, which is why I have recommended that all the clubs keep a very simple, you know, pad of paper or, you know, notebook or just something, you know, just have a page for each member of your club. I mean, no one has hardly more than 20 members, except the Empire Statesman. And for each page, you can just write down, yep, did icebreaker on this date, did, you know, evaluation on that date, you know, whatever. And that way you can just kind of keep track, you know, of everybody. And it's, you know, I don't think it's that big of a deal to keep track of. There's only a couple of people, because only you're really keeping track of our speeches and projects. You're not trying to keep track of all the officer roles anymore for the way it works. So, so when you come back doing the icebreaker, you launch it again, and you can see I've got this window. And after I did my icebreaker, I'm going, well, where's my thing to say I did it? I got it completed. Where do I check something off? Why am I back at this stupid screen? What am I going to do? I'm the Pathways Guide, and I don't even understand what I'm supposed to do. And finally, I realized, oh, by the way, how convenient that they managed to make this pop-up screen an exact size that looks like you have the whole thing. Except if I go down to the bottom of that little pop-up screen, lo and behold, there's actually more stuff. I wasn't looking.
Okay.
Oh, and here's my pull-down menu that says, you know, after your speech or prepare and present. and complete your assessment and assess your skills afterwards.
I totally missed that. Completely missed that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, trust me. Here I am, all cocky, like I've been doing pathway stuff. I've been doing these things. I'm completing my icebreaker. Someone else has already gone through and do it, and I go, what the heck's going on? So yeah, the key thing when you're on a computer is to know that you got to make that window large enough, number one. And if you're on an iPad or something like that, what'll tend to happen is that it'll create like a new tab, right? On your iPad, or a screen will be hidden behind another one. So you just got to really be careful about making sure, because this screen is a separate screen. It's separate from my browser one. So you really just got to keep that in mind. So when you're done with your icebreaker, in fact, you can even go in now, on yours, and come on, open up. And you can look at the, stuff about the icebreaker. So yeah, so it's all right having me do my skills afterwards. So you can go in here about preparing and presenting, and there's a little video about that. And then after your speech, it gives you, if I go to prepare and present, it gives you, as you go down through it, obviously you've gone through it, you can just do each arrow for each thing. Here's a little preview thing about, what you should go through and do and to help out and all of that. So it's, they're all very good, I think, frankly. So that's what you need. And then when you're done, you'll get this little check mark. And then as a VPE, what's confusing is, well, a lot of things are confusing, but you'll see up here for level 1, I'm 25% completed on the thermometer bar. But when your VPE goes, and the VPE is going to see like this 5% number when they do like a report of the whole club, because I'm 5% completed on the entire path.
Oh, okay.
Mind, two percentages. There's a percentage of how complete of the path you are, and there's another one how complete of the level you are. So when you're looking at and I can't do, because I'm not a base camp manager, I can't show you what those reports look like. But if you go in and look at the reports, just keep in mind there's two different kinds of percentages, whether it's a path completion or whether it's a level completion that's needed. And then underneath these, when you go through, you can pick up your the different training materials and such. But the other thing you can do, what I've done is I've downloaded them, and just a second, I'll pop up my. So I've downloaded them in my own pathways folder here. I've got a level 1. So I got a level 1 project 1, and then what I've done is I've downloaded all the things that needed. So, and now I can show you how to find them, but once you find them, I just found it easier to download them. So I have, there's the icebreaker. Again, this is a PDF. And this is the whole book about the icebreaker project. So it's like the old manuals, except there's a lot more information here than you had in the old manuals about an icebreaker. And in this manual, there is also at the end the project checklist and the evaluation form. But there's another place. That you can pick up just the evaluation form by itself. Come on. You can pick up. Come on. As soon as my computer responds here. There's another place where you can pick up just the evaluation form itself, so that you can print that out and bring that to a meeting. Now it's not letting me do it here. You can bring that to a meeting, because most people just want to use paper anyway. I mean, in principle, right, you could hey, done. There it is. You could do it online at a meeting, but almost no one does that. So here's the evaluation form by itself. If you know anything, if you have Adobe Acrobat, you can also, cut it out of the thing. I also have the worksheet that which you can use for, it gives you, particularly for the icebreaker, come on, that it lets you, tells you all the things you should be doing as part of your icebreaker. So again, that's in the manual itself, but sometimes it's easier just to have the worksheet itself. And so there's a very nice worksheet. I'd say for the icebreaker, they got some excellent materials. They've got a nice detailed book about what to do. They've got, these points of what you should be doing in order to, and even an outline of how to write your icebreaker speech. There's the evaluation criteria, so you know how you're going to be evaluated. And then if you go to, obviously, the application itself, you will have the online tutorial that we saw there as well. So there's a wealth of information particularly for new people, of doing the icebreaker. More on the icebreaker than some of the other ones, but nonetheless, they have the other ones as well. But the icebreaker in particular, a lot more than we ever did when you and I got started. So it's really, really good to have those.
Yeah, the worksheet on the icebreaker was excellent.
Yeah. Now for project 2, I'm in project 2, and because I did my icebreaker. So project 2 has, just to give you kind of a preview, it's the evaluation and feedback. And so the project includes these 3 steps. You give a 5 to 7 minute speech on anything you want. You get, feedback on that speech, like you normally would. And then you incorporate that feedback into a second speech. And it can even be the same speech you just got through doing. So just like you would for a contest, right? You give a speech, you get feedback if you win, and then you go to the next level and make it better. You can do the same thing here. It doesn't have to be a different speech. In fact, I would almost recommend it is the same speech, just like you would for a speech contest to get better. So you give a speech, you get the feedback from it, you give a speech again, hopefully having utilized that feedback, and of course you got another evaluation, and then you serve as a speech evaluator. So this is a good example of how they've intermixed competent communicator and competent leader. The competent communicators give a speech, the competent leader is serving as a speech evaluator, and then the, getting feedback and incorporating is kind of a combination of both, almost like I said, you would for a contest. So here's the description of what's, of what's needed. And then the other thing is, again, there's the evaluation, resource that you can get for the evaluation form that the evaluator is going to do. So this is the evaluation. This is actually the form when you're the evaluator, to give someone. So again, I find it easy to have these all downloaded and put them, right in my folder. And then again, this one also has a manual, I'm going to call it, that gives you the whole thing about this entire project. Again, that entire project is, as I just got through saying, give a speech, get the feedback, and do it again. So 3 components to this project, but you have them all there. And then when you get your feedback, what I recommend is that, let me get back to my, what I recommend is that you have someone email it to you, and then, oh, come on. You have someone email it to you, and then go over to this, my feedback tile, and on my feedback tile, all night. On my feedback tile is up at the top. You can see Basecamp, feedback, transcript, ePortfolio. If you go to ePortfolio, again, this is under the feedback tile. If I go to the ePortfolio, this is where, you got 10 minutes, this is where you can have badges, which I talk about another time, but also to store documents. Under documents, they're basically like folders you'd have on your computer, and so you can just have a general one like My Documents, but under level 1, is where I got my one, I've had, well, I actually have another one, I haven't uploaded it yet, but this is where I stored my evaluation that someone did, and they scanned it and then sent it to me. And so I have that right there for my future thing. Now, strictly speaking, you don't need to do that. Pathways is not required that you store your evaluations. So from my perspective, that's why I want something online. So I'm not carrying around a bunch of paper, number one. And number two, make it easy for future reference. So again, that's under ePortfolio, which is under the feedback under the feedback file. This is also where you can ask for feedback from other people, but we don't have time to go into that tonight. One last thing I want to leave you with before we get cut off, because this will cut off right at 10 minutes, is speech evaluations. Have you been to this file, Joanne?
No, I have not.
All right, under speech evaluations, there's all the evaluation forms that you need for all those 59 projects are on this page. So, the icebreaker, where is the icebreaker here? If you click on that, you'll get the icebreaker evaluation form that the evaluator needs. So you can go to this page to get all of them, regardless of whether you're in that level or not. But most importantly is this up here, review how to evaluate tutorial. I'm going to click it just to start it open. But this is by far, and you go ahead and launch it, this is by far the best tutorial on how to do an evaluation that I've ever seen in Toastmasters. It puts to shame anything that I've done on my own, if you will. And it's going to launch it as a video. I mean, not like a live streaming video, but like a PowerPoint kind of video, if you will. And it goes through and it has interactive questions. It does have some video scenes that show you how to do an evaluation properly and not properly. And it's taking a long time to load here, so I'm just going to close it, if you will. But it is it is by far the best tutorial I've seen, and I would highly recommend. Again, it's under the speech evaluations tile, and it's not obvious that when you open it that it's that underline in the upper right here, review how to evaluate tutorial. And I would say every Toastmaster, even if they don't do anything else with Pathways right now, even if they're sitting in the old program, have them pick a path just so they've got a path. And not just so they have a path, I mean, pick when they want, but don't worry about computer doing anything, but just run this tutorial and it'll be worthwhile for anybody. So that's my one takeaway. Last thing I want to just mention is up here is the search box. Turns out the search box is not just a search box for what's on this page. This is a general search box. So anything that you want to know, not anything, but some things are in there or not. If I want to find out about an icebreaker, I start typing icebreaker, and you see some things start to pop up, as like on a Google search. Here's the most popular items. Ignore those. Just hit the return key, and then what will happen is it'll give you all the items that have to do with an icebreaker. Now, you might say there's not that many. Well, there's still more down here as well. But here's how you can find an icebreaker speech outline, project description in French. The biggest problem with the search function, it shows you all the languages something is in. But, you can have all the items there. If I want to find out about Base Camp Manager, do a search. Actually, I misspelled camp. Base Camp Manager overview. So here's all the Base Camp glossary. So that search function is very useful. It's in the upper right. It searches the entire site, not just what's on that page. So that's one way to, instead of kind of hunting around for tutorials and resources, you can find that to be useful. And then one last thing, then there's other ones I can send you. There's a Basecamp, reference guide tutorial that I've downloaded. There's a reference guide, just a simple guide. There is a thing about how you get to be a distinguished Toastmasters in Pathways. And then for your new people, what I think is very helpful is there is a PDF of all of the paths that there are, those there's also a description of what's needed for each path, in terms of things that are, this is a mandatory and then these are electives. And then there's also the project description for each of those as well. So you get a list of what all the paths are and an overview description. Then you also get, for each path, you get a highlight of what's in each level. And then under each of those, you get all those, you get those projects in terms of specific things that's needed for each project. If anyone's getting a little nervous about, I don't know how to choose a path, or I'm going to answer all those questions, how do I know it's the right one? I got to make a decision right away. Just pass this around and say, well, read this first. And when you go to do the questions and do your picking, yeah, you'll have already an idea of which one you want to have before you get into it, which is perfectly rational. So in the 5 minutes we've got left, any other questions, Joanne? And Karen, I apologize for you not giving anyone a word in edgewise, but any other questions I can answer in the next 2 minutes, Karen, Joanne?
I'm good. I like what you showed me. I learned, I'm going to need to go in and just do it myself just to reinforce it, but I learned where some things were that I couldn't find before, so I'm grateful to you.
Yeah,
I've had this problem, So Karen, is there anything, I have 3 minutes exactly left. Anything, Karen, that I can help you with?
Thank you. You did. I've got it all down. So thank you very much. Really.
And it's like a lot of these kinds of things, we'll hang up and go, well, that was really useful. I learned where everything is. And then like tomorrow you're going to go, now where did he say that was? And I thought it was over here. And, where's that window resizing? And so, it does take going through it a few times. And like you say, Joanne, just getting into it and playing around and looking for it and such like that. But I'll send you a number of the files that I've already, like I showed you on my thing, that I've already downloaded. Not that you can't find them yourselves, but yeah, and not that you shouldn't go around trying to find them, because that would be helpful so you get used to it. But and I've sent Karen almost all of these, but I'll send them to you as well. And that way you just have them at your fingertips, and you have them on your own folder, and you'll be good to go then from that perspective. So I'm going to plan to. This is my 12th session, 13, 14, 15. I have 3 more sessions I need to do to complete my pathways guide responsibilities. So I'm going to do one next week, and I got to look at my calendar after that, but I'll definitely do another one next Thursday at 7. I've invited the world to come to these. I invited my brother. He was here this weekend for my 60th birthday party, and he's in a Toastmasters club in Chagrin Falls, Shaker Heights, Ohio. So I invited him because they got a brand new club, and they're trying to learn about pathways and such as well. So any other regular member wants to, or other area directors, or whomever, I'm more than glad. We've got 40 minutes. I just try to get the word out, and I think what's going to happen is, like next year at this time, people are going to say, "Oh, I guess I should have sat on some of those sessions." So,
yeah, it is exciting. If you could send me the invitations to your next few, because I am working with a brand new club down in Cooperstown, and I think that they would greatly benefit from this.
Definitely will do that. Okay, I got 30 seconds left. I don't want to get cut off in mid-sentence. Thank you all for attending, and I will send out a follow-up email with a few little notes and some of the attachments and the invitation for next week then.
Great.
Thanks, Scott.
All right.
Thank
guys.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.